Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Future Tech Enterprise fed 29 years of procurement responses into an AI model and cut an RFQ team from 7 people to 1. Federal News Network's Eric White spoke with their CEO, Bob Venero, to understand why he believes DoD should use the same technology to evaluate its own bids faster and cheaper.
The advent of AI is here, whether you want to or not. It is going to be probably a part of any future initiatives that we see within the federal government. Let's start out with an overview, and we'll kind of go from there of what you're seeing. This is obviously a changing times within the federal realm. As somebody like yourself, what's your viewpoint?
As we look at AI in the federal government, but also in the companies that support the federal government, like the Northrop Grummans of the world, the Raytheons, AI is extremely important in helping them accomplish mission, right? Whether that mission is for the warfighter or whether that mission is for the Veterans Administration or any of the other areas within the government. And what we're seeing is there's a tremendous amount of pilots that are happening within those government agencies, because at the end of the day, right, AI means something different to everybody, right? And really if you look at it, what is going to be the business outcome of some type of AI strategy or AI automation that you as an agency or as a federal systems integrator are trying to accomplish, right? And that's the key factor. Look, I want to say there's no magic behind the curtain as it relates to what AI is. Right? It's things that are going to happen at speed and scale tied to incredible technologies from companies like NVIDIA, right? Who are really, I look at them as the grandfather of AI. And actually, I think next week is NVIDIA's GTC event in DC, right? Really geared towards the government and, what AI is doing for them. So, as we look at different areas within the different government spaces, automation is key. Right, having the proper language models in there to support the large language models to support what those agencies are trying to do, right? And then really protecting and the security around what those AI models are going to do and the guardrails that the government has to have, which is different than the bad actors around, right, their AI testing processes and procedures.
Yeah, that's been one thing I've been curious about as large language models and other AI tools start being implemented, and the idea of contractors competing for different jobs. How are government officials going to judge who has the better large language model, or who's piggybacking off of who? Just getting your thoughts on what the future in that realm will look like.
Well, when you look at that, and that's a great question, right? And people are saying, hey, prove to me that you didn't use an AI model to do that, right? And I look at it and say, if I'm smart enough to use that AI model, you should be looking at me because I'm going to be innovative and smart to help accomplish the goal. I don't necessarily look at it as a bad thing, right? Who is going to leverage the proper tools that are out there to accomplish the job in the most efficient, effective, and cost-based area, right? And I think that's key for people to start to look at. There's a lot of things that you'll see now when people actually do interviews. They're asking them, are you doing this interview with AI or not with AI? And, you have to attest it, but to me, that is counter to what AI is looking to do for everybody, right? It's about speed, accuracy, and automation. And if someone knows how to leverage it better, that's probably the person that you want, because those tools are going to be in your environment. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad opportunity or they're a bad contractor or there's a bad, comparative against large language models. It's who's using the technology to the best of its ability to accomplish the goals and the business outcomes. That's the answer, right?
How much help will it provide on the bottom line, do you think, as far as budgets are getting tighter and tighter? How much more will this provide?
No, budgets are fine. Yeah. As we look at what AI can accomplish, And automation is a lot of that AI conversation, because when you can do automation, then you can take people out of the mundane tasks that are just labor intensive and have them focus on better things to do that are more thought provoking within their environment. So, it will make a difference as far as cost is concerned, because if I have an individual that, we're paying $150,000 a year, and we had him doing tasks that were mundane because it was a part of his, job description, and now we can automate that and have him do more thought-provoking things. That's better for the environment that we're going to put him in, but it's also better for the bottom line, because now I can do things quicker, more efficient, and more effective, and now I can come in under budget potentially. So as budgets become more and more strained, AI becomes a much better tool, right? But the big fear, and I'm talking about this at a event next week, where am I going to lose my job to AI, right? And it's a very broad question, like we talked to, and you shouldn't lose your job to AI. And if you do lose your job to AI, then you weren't focusing on really what your career was in your future. Because if AI can just take the job away, right, then you haven't built value for yourself as an individual, right? It's about how AI can help you do your job better, faster. And, right now the question is accuracy, right? Because there's a lot of mistakes that happen within that model. And, you can use any of the, whether it's Grok or Chat GPT, and you ask it a question that you know the answer to, and you know that the answer they gave you is wrong. And then you just say, "Are you sure?" And you prompt that in, and they're like, "You're right. Actually, I did make a mistake. Now that I thought about it, right, here's what it is." So it's not even a question about, is that model 100% accurate? If you're taking that as the rule of law, then you're going to be in a situation where it's going to come back and bite you in the butt.
We're speaking with Bob Venero. He's the Senior President and CEO of Future Tech Enterprise. Yeah, that's been the selling point of this technology, is faulting whatever the doomsdayers say about loss of job, that, it will help automate and free you up from those mundane tasks. Are we already seeing that, or, when is that going to kick in? Because I still find myself doing a lot of data entry here, Bob.
Yeah. I think it's definitely happening, not as efficiently and effective as it should. And that's because we haven't been educated properly on prompt engineering, right? If you don't know how to ask the AI model the question the right way, it's going to take you longer sometimes to get to the end result. So there's a whole education cycle that needs to happen on, how to create the right prompting to ask the right questions to get to your end result and goal. And I think that's going to develop over time. So right now we're in the infancies of it. I can tell you that it definitely helps in some of the mundane tasks that are tied to, hey, I want to write a brief about something. Here is my topic, right? It gets you 80% there, and then you have to go in and adjust it. But that 80% has saved you a lot of time, effort, right, from starting it from the beginning to the end. But then you need to validate what it is, the end result, and make sure your answers are correct. So, we're not quite there yet. I think in the next 12 to 18 months, you'll see a big difference as these models become more and more intelligent in supporting the businesses that they're handling, the government agencies that they're handling, whatever the area that it is, because it's all about the data. And, I know I can't curse, but it is YouTube. I might be able to curse a little bit, but shit in, shit out, right? And that is, from a data perspective, extremely important as these models become trained.
We are still a radio station, so I may have to bleep it for that version.
Yeah, we can bleep that.
We can keep that in there for the online ones. Specifically speaking, let's zero in on the defense side of things. Where from a warfighter perspective could this technology even work out for the Department of Defense? Obviously, loaded question, a lot of things the Department of Defense is doing, but I'm talking about, in the procurement contract world, could this technology be of assistance?
Oh, without a doubt, right? So a lot of times when the agencies like the DoD, right, they put out an RFQ for some type of solution, they've got criteria that they need to look at and vet each time the respondent is doing what they're doing. And that criteria now can be handled by AI versus an individual having to compare hundreds or thousands of pages of response, going through it, making sure, pulling out the key areas in there, and then evaluating them across each other, right? And I think that's very important as you take a look at the speed of getting things done. What we're seeing in the organizations, the systems integrators like the Northrop, right, is speed is so important to them. Now, to be able to respond to something accurately, efficiently, and be there first versus somebody else who maybe isn't leveraging those tools is key. And now if the Department of Defense can use those same tools to evaluate and compare and contrast versus the human eye, it's a game changer. It really, really is. And it can give you weighted results, right, against each of the potential bidders on there and pick what it believes is the right solution based on your criteria. But then you still have that human intervention that says, okay, let's really weigh the results here. Thank you for giving me the information. I see it this way, but Northrop Grumman performed better than BAE did on this or vice versa, right? And there's historics that you can take a look at from a DoD perspective. So I think the more and more it's adopted within that space, the more efficient those agencies can become, the quicker they can give awards, and the better the cost base will be. It's going to reduce their cost as well.
Yeah, and the bidders may be able to use it if they have to go through a lengthy RFQ, right?
Without a doubt, right? I mean, even Future Tech as a company, right, we do a lot of RFQs because we support a lot of the federal systems integrators. And we have an AI tool now that we took over. We've been in business 29 years of responses, and we fed it into the large language model. And so now when something comes across the plate, I don't have to have a team of 7. Hey, pull from this, pull from that, pull from here, pull from that. The AI goes in, it looks at the criteria, it then pulls it and it helps us write a draft of what the response is, right? With the key things that we've had. And that's been amazing from a time reduction perspective and from a personnel and skill perspective.
Yeah, pointing it back at yourself, you gave that example. What are you having those 7 folks do now that you don't have to have them digging through all of that paperwork?
Yeah, here's a perfect example, right? The person now who heads up our RFQ team, she wanted to expand and be a part of the onboarding and training for individuals that come into the company. And so now she has a dual role in the organization. Then that role wasn't there before, but now we created this additional role. She's got both of them. She has the time to do it based on the tools that are there. And now from an onboarding and training perspective, we're going to bring in an AI module that's going to help her with that as well, right? So if you're embracing it properly, right, it is going to take you to places that are good. I always use this analogy. I'm a boater, right? And everybody, years ago, you had 2 sticks when you had 2 engines, right? You had sticks for left and right and back and forth and yes. And then they came out with a joystick, right? And the joystick is just like we know. You turn the joystick left, it goes left, turn it right, back, forward, all intelligence built into it. The key and smart thing about what that has done, I used to get yelled at. You're a cheater, you know, you're not learning the old way. I'm like, no, I'm actually smart, right? Because it's a lot easier to do it this way. I can get to my route quicker and I can park a lot more easy. It's the same thing with these tools, right? Embrace them, bring them into your environment, leverage them out there, and it'll help you as an organization, but also any of the agencies that do it, it will help them be more efficient, effective, right? And that's important right now tied to cost and cost reduction.
I'm all for that. There's nothing more uncomfortable than watching your friend attempt to park a boat. So
yeah, exactly.
Bob Venero is CEO of Future Tech Enterprise. Thank you so much for joining us. This is great.
Great. Appreciate the time.
And you can find this interview on our website. Head to federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.